All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for coming back. This is the Four Elements United. I'm Wind,
I'm Earth.
I'm water.
And I'm fire.
and tonight, as promised, we're gonna set this off for the ladies. We're gonna talk about, what we love about women. And let me just set it off and just tell you guys, at the beginning of the year, my mother passed away. She was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And she met her demise a few months ago. So this is in honor of her and all the other women, all the other great women in my life. And so I'll set it off like this. One of the real reasons why I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of issues in our community, with respect to fractured relationships and fractured marriages. Our community is just totally upside down. And I think that one of the big reasons for that is because of the way we interact with one another. So tonight we're going to talk about what we love about women and what we expect and want from women. I'll stop right there and I'll kick it up to Fire because he's the married man.
Oh, you gonna send it my way, huh?
I'm gonna send it your way.
I'm with it. So, what do we love about women, man? Listening to you give a tribute to your mom, bro. Just because I first thought about this topic, I thought to myself, what is it that I love about women? And I was even talking to Earth and Water. Actually, it was you. Water was somewhere naked.
Oh, that was pre-show. That was pre-show, everyone. That was pre-show.
That's my dog. My dog was somewhere literally naked. It was you, man. And when I first thought about the topic, I saw like how much that I regard my wife in a category in a league of her own. So it's like when I think about women, I think about my wife, and then there's everyone else. But when you just gave a tribute to your mom, it made me realize that the first archetype for what a woman is for me was my mom. It is actually my mom. And so, with that being said, I gotta start there. I gotta set it off with moms and what moms represented for me. And what I loved, what became was a love for women was her strength. It was her commitment to her children. It was her loyalty and her unyielding faith and belief in us, my brother Dorian and I, in our ability to do anything that we put our minds to. It was the fact that we did wrong, right? We weren't perfect, but the streets didn't know that, right? The teachers didn't know that, the coaches didn't know that, other parents in the community didn't know that, and so she held us in the highest light, with the highest regard and the highest esteem publicly. But she sure did get in. She got in. She got in privately. She did what she had to do privately. So, integrity, like I said, strength, hard work, loyalty, all these things are a possibility. These are things that come to mind from my first archetype. Now, what's interesting is subconsciously, these are the same traits that I sought out in a wife. Shocker, right? And so I can see the correlation or the commonality between the traits that I ascribed to my mom, that I loved about her, and my wife, plus a whole other dynamic, which is sort of that intimate, connection that you get from your partner. Obviously, you can't get from your parents, and so that was my foundation. I was also talking to Earth about the characteristics of what he thought. So I'm gonna spin it to you, Earth, because I asked you a question pre-show, and the question was, is there a difference between why you love women and why you love your woman, or something to that effect? And you were like, actually, go ahead.
So
Pick it up.
I want to start out like it's similar to you. You know,
Yeah.
initially, you know, when we had the show topic, I wasn't necessarily thinking about my mother, right? But the moment when started talking about his mother, it just kind of switched everything, did like a 180 for me. And you know, when I started thinking about when I added my mother to the mix, then it actually brought things like really into view, in the focus for me, because many of the attributes that my mother had, I mean, the women who I date, they have the same attributes, totally. You know, so to get to your question, so for me, like what I love about women and what I love about like my woman is, you know, if you're gonna be my woman, then you have to have at least, well, you have to have all the attributes that I love about women, period, in general. Plus, you know, things that come, you know, within the context of a relationship itself. You know, so one of the things that I love, you know, women who are like extremely supportive, and support is relative to the person, like what they like, you know, what they consider to be support or not. You have some feedback in the background.
Yes.
Okay, is then okay? There we go. Seems like it's going.
It might be somebody's mic.
All right. Nevertheless, we'll keep going. Joe has to go. So, you know, when I look at it, I look at like, you know, support, like, you know, women, for me, I like women who are fit, you know, because I think about it, like my mom, she used to work out all the time. She used to cycle, you know, she had like gym membership, she walked, she ran, like she did all those things growing up. So that began to model for me what I like about women, or what's attractive to me about women. And this is like across the board, you know, for me. And so if you're gonna be, you know, my woman, you have to embody all the things I like about women in general. Plus, you know, if it relates to affection, for example, affection is one of the things I love about women. You know, the affection in a relationship, of course, is different than the affection within something that's platonic or just within women in general. But I just love like women bring this dynamic to the space, that actually, if she is actually being feminine, like women bring this balance to this space that's unmatched. You know, you can't match it, you can't get it from any place else, you know, but from a woman, period, in general. And so I love like when women bring that to the space. They bring a lot of care to the space. They bring a lot of thought, a lot of consideration to the space. You know, for example, you all are probably, you know, everybody's worked in an office, right? When I worked in an office setting where there was all men, and I worked in an office setting where it's a combination. So if you ever worked in an office setting when it's all men, when the holidays roll around, what happens? Nothing. We just keep rolling. If you have a woman in the office, what happens? She's bringing in Christmas cookies. She's bringing in treats. Like all of this stuff happens, you know. But when men are just in the office, we just like, you know, we don't think about it. It's not a consideration. So women bring a level of consideration, a level of care, a level of admiration that you just can't get from anyplace else. And like, let's just love the way women take care of you. That's just, it's unmatched. Period. That's all I got to say for now. I'm gonna just punt the ball right now. Just for now, I'm gonna come back. Got some other stuff.
Wow. Yeah, you guys really brought it. I also have to say that there's no way I thought when we talked about what we love about women that like my mom didn't come to mind or whatnot. However, once Win really, really got in there, and look, Win, I really appreciate your you know, you bringing that up, man. And you know, we've talked about it. Condolences to moms, man, and you're in a good space around that. And just thinking about my mom, wow. As Fire was saying, you know, growing up, she is that archetype of what I, as a man, have thought about when the word woman comes into my mind. Like, she is what I think, right? She's a very caring woman. She's a very nurturing woman. She's always been biggest cheer horribly for me, she was there. And I think that, you know, those times, you know, her being there and her being there for me were really, really, you know, what I consider, I think, you know, when I think, what do I love? You know, I love, you know, that my mom has always been there for me. And I think of when I think of someone being there for me. And, you know, for me, that is probably one of the biggest points, the biggest things that I see. I think that also what ends up happening is, you know, for me, that thought, when I see the prototype in my mind, you know, I see what Earth is talking about. I've been in the same situation. I've been in an office where there've been pretty much all men, and nothing happens. And then when there's a holiday, it's really, really festive. When you have, you know, when you have an office full of women, it's a very festive time. And dudes, we're just like, dude, like, so what? It's the holidays. and I think that, you know, like that attention to detail and that, you know, that nurturing aspect is really, for me, what comes to mind when I think woman. I'll leave it there because I know we're kind of going around the horn. When you really kicked it off powerfully, man, what are you hearing? And when we three came back to you with what we thought of, you know, when we think of women?
Well, one of the things that I want to talk about, one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is because, like I said, there's a lot of foolishness that's going around on the internet and social media, you know, where men and women are bashing each other. So I really wanted to, you know, big up the women, and share with them the attributes that men actually love, you know, beyond sex, beyond food. Men are a little more complex than you guys expect, or that you guys view us as. And how we see you guys and what we want from you is not as simple and black and white as you might expect or think. And I think that is one of the reasons that many of our families are broken up, because there's a disconnect, a miscommunication as to what we really like about each other and what we really expect from one another. So let me just say that my mom was tremendously resilient. She was a powerful woman. She was an industrious woman, just like you guys, you know, shared about the women in your lives. But unfortunately, you know, given the circumstances of the times, there's a masculinity that is brought to the space. Being resilient, being powerful, being courageous, and being brave, and just taking care of family. And that masculinity brought to the table, you know, breeds a lot of miscommunication, a lot of ugly tonality, a lot of disrespect. And I think that women really don't understand that to actually have a functional relationship, a happy relationship, to get married, not to date, not to go out and kick it with, not to have sex with, but actually marry and have a long-term committed relationship, you know, requires a particular tonality, a particular femininity that they might not be accustomed to, or that is lost. There's a lost art to being a woman, to being a wise woman, to being a feminine woman, and to have the outcomes that you women want, and to improve our community and bring things back to a better order, it's going to require that type of femininity to come back. So I'll stop there, and I'll kick it back to whoever wants to chime in after that.
Let me off the chain, man. Let me get in there.
Go ahead.
Gosh darn it. I love what you're speaking, bro. I love the perspective, because in a nutshell, the thing that is distinct, unique, and different from that which I bring to the table, that which the homies or the broskies bring to the table when we building and chopping it up, is the femininity, right? So I'm gonna give it some context, because I think it's important. A lot of women ask, well, what's femininity? What do you mean? I'm a woman. I am feminine. I am woman, so therefore I am feminine. Not so much. To Wynn's point, my father was non-custodial. Those masculine traits that Wynn described to his mother, I can see in my own mother. And the reason why they were present is because there was the absence of a masculine counterpart. So when my mom was hard, when my mom was dudeish, if you will, don't slander me on in the comments, dudeish, if you will.
Yeah, she just had to be fierce.
She had to be, in the absence of a partner or a teammate who can get in me and Dorian's rear ends. She had to be.
Not only that, but the place where we all grew up, our mothers had to be fierce.
On top of growing up in the hood, you see what I'm saying? I think what happens is when they're unconscious, or it's happening by default, they have no control or choice over that way of being. Then they forget how to turn it off, right? And so let me go grab femininity qualities real quick. So behavior and personality traits such as nurturance, sensitivity, sweetness. So I'm gonna go slow. Supportiveness, gentleness, warmth, passivity. Now, before y'all go ahead and get triggered at the terminology passivity, just stay with me, because some of y'all got some trigger fingers. Oh my God, he said I'm passive. See, that's
okay. Hold on. So is this a fire original definition, or is this like Wikipedia, or man, we have to give the source. We have to give the source of this, because if it's a fire original, they may have reason to pull the trigger on passivity. Like it sounds like your wish list, So is this Wikipedia?
This is Wikipedia. So it's broader than my context. I happen to be in line with it. When I read it, I say this is true for me. So I say Wikipedia. Some of you decide not to give it credence, but what I will invite you to do, if you are male, see if it's true for you. If you're female, consider these traits are true. All right. So passivity, cooperativeness, expressiveness, modesty, humility, empathy, affection, tenderness, and being emotional, kind, helpful, devoted, and understanding have been cited as stereotypically feminine. Water, what you hearing, bro?
Well, first off, I want to go to the comments. Quaylen is she's in agreement here, and she's saying because the lack of masculine energy on one of your previous comments. So like your definition. I'm not sure if she's talking about your definition or your previous comment where you were saying that that lack of that is the energy that was lacking there. And then she's also saying that like that is a mixture of Wikipedia and fire. So she's calling you out. That's why I wanted to get a little bit of distinction there, so that we can make sure that we know you're in the kitchen cooking over there. You're cooking the definition books over there a little bit. Yeah. But that's a interesting list, right? Because there's a lot of dispute these days, and I mean, let's be honest. It's a touchy subject, especially in the world that we live in today. Especially how the whole way that culture works, cancel culture, and all this stuff. This is a dicey subject and a dicey topic. However, what we want to do is we want to bring the conscious conversation and the consciousness around it, as opposed to the ignorant conversation of just bashing women. Because listen, if you heard the warm up, I think Wynn set the tone very, very clearly. This is about honoring women, okay? And this is about truly what we love about women, not how we want women to be kind of some thing that's, like that just serves us only. Because I think for me, the biggest thing is that one of the things that in your list, what I was hearing, Fire, is like, this is different than my default behavior. And so one of the things that I was just hearing, and one of the things that if I were to say what I love about women that are not like my mother, that I'm interested in, and I'm, that I'm in a relationship with, is that difference. I think the difference is, to me, when I think woman in a relationship context, I think difference to me is probably what is attractive to me. Is kind of like that opposites attract. So I don't want I don't want a woman that feels like me hanging out with my boys, right? I want something that's completely different. And that list has some of those things wrapped into that difference, if you will. Earth, what'd you hear in that definition?
So this is where my mind went, right? So I was thinking about the conscious part aspect of it, right? So I'm gonna say something. I want you to just track me, okay? So like the brain cannot distinguish the difference between someone being murdered on television in a movie television show, between someone being murdered in real life. We may know the difference consciously, but your brain does not distinguish the difference. That's why someone can watch movies about people dying and then they'll be afraid. They're fearful because the brain does not distinguish the difference. Now, I said that for a reason. Now, the brain also does not distinguish whether or not a man is giving off masculine energy or a female is giving off masculine energy. It's just masculine energy. Okay? So what happens within the context of male and female interaction is that, and this is where a huge breakdown exists, is when women come across and they're giving off masculine energy, we can see physically this is a woman, but the brain isn't distinguishing the difference. And so our sort of natural innate reaction is to treat that woman as though she is a man, as though she's a broski or a dude. And that's where a lot of breakdown happens, because we see them as one thing. It's actually an internal conflict if you really sit down and think about it. We see this woman, this is a woman, this is a female. But when the energy comes, our brain says, no, it's processing this woman as a male. It's what it's doing. And then there's a huge breakdown that happens. There's conflict that happens. Because the way that we will react to her is the same way that we will react to another man when that energy is coming across. If it's aggressive energy, we will be just as aggressive with her as we are with men. And that's where women will say, oh, you shouldn't speak to women in that way, you shouldn't do blah blah blah, but they don't understand what's happening is a trigger. It's something that's not intentional. It's just how we react and how we respond to masculine energy, period. So I just wanted to drop that right here. And well, so I add this now. Oh, so I'll add this. And this is, and consider that this is why at times, I'm saying all the time, but sometimes men will actually go out and be with other women because he's not distinguishing subconsciously the difference between that masculine energy coming from this woman and her being a woman, not distinguishing that. And you'll notice he will go out and he may be with some other woman, and that woman is actually feminine because who she shows up as is a match for her energy. and then we get upset, we get mad. You know, women just do whatever they do. But I just wanted to plop that right there. Let y'all stew on that for a minute. What you got?
You want to go?
I'm chopping at the bit. Gosh darn it, Earth. This thing can go. That point you just interjected can take this conversation down so many different paths. But I think it's an important path in this context because we talk about in my relationship group the rift between males and females and men and women, and you just knocked it out of the park, bro. But the thing that I got for myself in my listening of you is this. As the only married man on the panel, been married for 18 years, been with my lady 20, almost 21 years, right? When I look at her way of being and when she shows up most feminine, when she shows up in her highest feminine form, is when my level of integrity is at its highest. Inside of my level of integrity being at its highest, her trust for me, faith in me, and willingness to surrender, because she understands that my will is aligned with her will, is aligned with the best outcome, a situation, a circumstance for the family. She lets go, and that's where she exudes her most feminine energy. She could be in sweatpants and flip flops and one of my old big t-shirts. She could have her hair in a ponytail or a bonnet or a silk satin scarf. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with physical attributes. Everything to do with the being and the energy. And so for all the brothers who are watching, who are either in relationships, for all the sisters who are watching, who are in relationships or not, understand that there's some brothers out there who get you. We hear you. There's a reason why you're showing up masculine. And you're showing up masculine because you don't trust us. You're showing up masculine because we're not operating in our masculinity and showing up as the highest versions of ourselves. I get it. And so I leave you with this and I pass it to Win. Man, I'm taking on intentionally because to Earth's point, it's the femininity for me, man. I love a feminine woman. And in order for me to experience this reciprocity of femininity and me leading appropriately, in my position as the head, is for me to operate the highest version of myself and make my wife feel safe. I said this to her the other day. I said, look, I talked to her, I text her. I said, I'm gonna make you feel safe. And she can track my behaviors and my decisions and how I've gone about things since that conversation and see that as a result of me making her feel safe, I'm getting the femininity in return, and it's glorious. Win?
Yeah, I totally agree that every man, every woman must be accountable and responsible for themselves and operate at the highest level of integrity, for sure. No question about that. And I agree with you, Water, about, having somebody on the other side being a complement of your energy. What do you guys think for the single women and the single men? But we're talking to the ladies tonight. What can the women do? What can the women be to actually extend themselves in good faith to improve community, improve relationships, improve family structure?
So I'll start on that one. I would say that it goes back to, I think Fire gave the best pointer for this particular, the answer to your question. It really doesn't start with women. I heard Fire say is it actually starts with men, and it actually starts with just men in general, right? Because so one of the distinguishing things that we put in our show last week is we talked about toxic masculinity versus conscious masculinity. And so as a man, if you are bringing toxic masculinity to your intimate relationship, and really any relationship, you know, your friends, your intimate relationship, your family, your work situation, whatever it is, that toxicity does not do anything for that nurturing that list of what fire, the list of what fire came up with. There's no way that anybody, if someone's being toxic, overly aggressive, ultra competitive, just, you know, rough around the edges, and just, you know, with no other, with no regard for what you're doing, or what the you know, the like not being responsible for what the mess that you're making in your relationships, then there is no way that, like, there's nothing that women can be. I mean, like, they just have to, like, just the same that we just said, if we put out, like, if a woman reacts to you with masculine energy, you're going to just knee jerk, and you know, like, you're going to respond with masculine energy. So if you're putting out toxic energy, then toxic energy is going to come back to you. It's just the, you know, the law of attraction, or what you will. And so, like, to me, I think the answer to your question, Win, is that for men, we have to behave more so in a conscious masculine, and give off more conscious masculine energy, and fully understand our energy and the energy that we're putting out there, in order to, you know, make a space for the women in our life to give that feminine energy. Because as Fire just said, if it's not safe and they don't trust you, then, like, there's no way that they're going to open up that vulnerable side. Would you basically be vulnerable with a person that you didn't trust? Any man. Like, there's no way. Like, you're not going to open and show something that could potentially be where someone could just take the dagger and just, yeah. Like, no one would ever do that. And so, as men, we have to really get it in our heads that, hey, listen, if you're looking for that, right, it starts with you. It starts with you, bro. Like, it doesn't start with them. It doesn't start with her, especially in your intimate relationship. If that's what you want, and you're like, all these women, da, 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 it's not like that's it's not her. Trust me, it is you. As soon as you, the same way that Earth was saying that, you know, like, when maybe there's you know, a man maybe in a relationship and he goes to seek feminine energy somewhere else, like, a woman's gonna go seek masculine energy somewhere else, and not that toxic energy. Like, it'll be so easy for someone to come along because you're putting out so much something that's just not desirable. And I think that if you get in tune with that conscious masculinity, the rest will take care of itself. Earth, that's what I have.
So I'm going to have to give a little bit of pushback.
Okay.
I may be the pushback dude this week. From my perspective, it's just my experience in life, my experience in dating, my experience in like, I've been married before, and from my personal experience, what works for me is that there has to be a sense of reciprocity. It has to be give and take. It can't be, you know, I'm a man, I'm gonna bring all of this to the show, and then a woman just kind of shows up, and then there's like this expectation that she's gonna fall into some type of, you know, submissive or feminine space. If she hasn't done the work, I don't care who or how you show up as a man. It does not matter. I've been in those situations. It's gonna fall apart. All you're gonna do is sit there. You're gonna sit there with the woman, and you're gonna say, you know what? Okay, this can work. You're gonna suggest that she does things, get some counseling, blah blah blah. That doesn't happen generally. I'm not saying it never happens, but it generally doesn't happen. And so we both have to be able to bring, just like men need to bring something like their masculine selves, women need to bring their feminine selves. It shouldn't take a man to come for a woman to be feminine. In the same way, it doesn't take a feminine woman to come for me to be masculine. And when you go into any type of relationship situation, you're going into it. It's like the exploratory stage, and you need to be able to explore and be yourself and explore, and not take whatever the other person does personally. That's why people will end up, kind of closing up and balling themselves up, and women will come across as being masculine because they take whatever happened personally. You can't do that if you're going to be successful within the relationship itself. So for me, a woman has to come feminine. I'm not interested in making her feminine, or do not making her, but doing something to have her to open up her femininity in the same way that she doesn't come in a relationship saying, "Oh, let me see what I need to do to have this guy to be masculine." She's not going to do that at all. I need to come to the table as my true self, whatever that looks like. She needs to come to the table as her true self, in her masculine. I mean, in her femininity. I come in masculinity. And if it's a match, it's a match. If it's not, it's just not. It's simple as that to me. So that's my 2 cents. So I have to give a little bit of pushback on that one. I don't think that all responsibility is mine to come with all of this. Ooh, you have to come with all this integrity. Ooh, all of this, and the woman comes just with nothing, and you hope that she at some point is like, oh, I wanna be feminine. That's why, like, when women say, oh, I'll be feminine when a man with the right man. No, you should walk through like life like that all the time. Just like a man, as a man, I have to walk through life masculine all the time. That's something that I don't have the luxury of turning off and on. I just don't at all. And so if you walk through that life in that way all the time, you will yield greater results. That's my view.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that we're all experiencing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And so we all come with some baggage. And to have a functional relationship, it requires each of us as individuals to deal with that in a productive manner, deal with that baggage. So that means go to counseling, go to therapy, get coaching, do whatever it takes to get to a level space where you can actually engage the opposite sex in a functional relationship. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, Earth, about that.
Yeah, and let me just say that by no means was I saying that. Like, a woman doesn't have to do anything. However, I think that what I'm really saying is I'm saying that we're four guys. So we can't really, I had to be honest, I can't tell you what a woman needs to be, honestly. Like, I really can't, because I'm a man. So, like, I could sit here and make some stuff up, and I could sit here and, like, take the information from the small pool of women that I've had, and that exist out of the whole pool of women on the planet. But at the end of the day, I just think that like what Wynn is saying, like, if somebody's dysfunctional, they're just dysfunctional. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and let me just say this too, is that it's not about what we want them to be per se. This is about what you want. This is about what you love about women. So we want to express to them so that they can take something, in their lives and make it practical and actionable, so they can actually have functional relationships and family structure and community.
Yep. Yeah, and just to get back to the comments, we had one: men be integral. Women need to be able to trust men, as you said, Fire. Women must, and women want to trust men. Show up as the best version of yourselves, and I think that goes for both men and women. Showing up as the best version of yourselves. Yeah. Fire, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it's a piggy. It's really not a counter, but some more expounding on Earth's point about men showing up with masculine and women showing up to the table feminine. I think that conversation it exists in the land of idealism, where a man has done his work, he is complete with his past, he operates in the highest integrity and is constantly striving to be the best or highest version of himself. And a woman is doing the same. I think the majority of the viewers, And the majority of people in the real world aren't there yet. I think the majority of people are somewhere along the journey of even having the awareness that there is some childhood trauma that is running the show that needs to be dealt with and healed, dealing with said childhood trauma and actively in therapy and so on and so forth. Or on the other side, when they've completed that childhood trauma with their mom, dad, and or whoever caused them pain. Like people are anywhere on the spectrum, right? And so what you have in reality is that you have, two people that may not have it all together. And so there is this tug of war of masculine and feminine occurring. And Kiana reminded me that, some women, she reminded us actually, some women have adopted giving off masculine energy as a defense mechanism, as you talked about this PTSD, when the reality is that we're going to meet people in the dating sphere, single folks, that are dealing with this PTSD or not dealing with this PTSD. And so for me, when I hear, I don't have an expectation for a woman, even though I've been married for so long, but I don't have an expectation that a woman's going to show up to me healed, perfect, whole, complete, in her full feminine. I have an expectation that a woman's going to show up to me, if I'm a single man, battered, broken, callous, because especially at my age now, she's gone through some things. I would expect that coming in to the situation. The awareness that these things have occurred and maybe the reality that she's doing her work is a plus. But if she's not, it's not necessarily a throwaway. It's not necessarily a tossback. I think in the single sphere, the single realm, too many folks are looking for box checks. And if somebody doesn't fit and check all the right boxes, they get cast to the side. So as a man, I heard a pastor say this when I was still in the league. Pastor was talking about relationships. He said this to me. From your very own perspective, the relationship is not 50-50. That's a lie. That's a fallacy. A relationship is 100-0. Because I'm 100% responsible for my lot, for my role, for what I allow, for what I cause in the relationship. That doesn't mean that the lady is off the hook, because I'm going to do everything. I'm going to pay all the bills. I'm going to heal all your wounds. I'm going to be your walking, talking version of Sage, from a spiritual, energetic perspective. And you don't have to bring anything to the table. That's not what that means. What that means is I'm 100% responsible for it all, and you're for my role in it, what I cause or allow, and you're 100% responsible for your role and what you cause and allow. And so from that perspective, we're both bringing our full selves to the table, being responsible for what we can be responsible for. I think you get generally better outcomes. So what you hearing?
Let me ask you this. Make an assumption that two individuals are battered, are broken, and they desire to have a healthy outcome. They want a functional relationship. What are some of the things that they would have to agree to begin that process and make that actually happen?
Let's make it practical. I'm gonna use a real example.
Exactly.
I'm gonna use a real example. Without having done her own work, right? This is pre-landmark. Okay. My wife said to me as a rule, we will not go to sleep upset with one another. That's a rule. Wasn't nothing ethereal about that. Black and white. If we have an argument or a disagreement, we will not lay our head down without reconciling it between ourselves. But that forces me. But it's like, who are you, the teacher? Who are you, popo? Like, who's going to enforce this rule? Is there a fine? Is there prison time if I don't follow the rule? Nah, it's just something that resonated with me inside, and it was also something that she was unyielding about. She would not. So I would try to roll over and go to sleep. She'd go flick on the lights. She'd pull the covers off me. It's a true story. True stories. Lights on, covers off. Like, so you just gonna go to sleep? But we agreed that we were going to talk about everything before we went to bed, right? That's one example. Another example that comes to mind when is this, because energy goes left quick, especially when a man, to Earth's point, is experiencing masculinity from a. we don't just because you got female parts doesn't stop us from responding and reacting to male energy like that. 100% accurate. Another rule that two people who haven't done their work and that have not reached a level of consciousness that allows them to prevent these things from happening is we don't raise our voice at each other. We may disagree, but all the fussing and fighting that you see on TV, reality TV, your uncle, your grandpa, your dad may have done, we do not raise our voices at each other. We do not curse at each other. That's another rule that can be implemented before all the ethereal, deep, spiritual, philosophical, psychological work has been done that will prevent blow-ups from happening. I guarantee you. I get you 2 for free.
You guys?
Man, you have the comments blazing over here, Fire. Everyone's loving the practical stuff. I mean the comments are just coming in, man. People are loving it. I think what this is showing, and this is another thing that we talk about in previous episodes, is that look, we're here for you all. We have our own private conversations where we talk about what we want to talk about, but all the people who are in the comments right now, Art, Kathy, Brandon, Quaylen, Angie, I mean, everyone's showing up in the in the comments here. We're doing this for all of you, right? We basically have created this so that we can have that engagement. If you're watching this as a replay, or you're listening to this just the audio, look, show up every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about what you want to talk about. If you're basically engaging in the comments, we're going to basically be, in here talking about what you're talking about. I mean, Brandon's over here taking notes. So fire look, send Fire a DM, Brandon, send him a DM, because like he said, this guy's been married for how many years?
18 and a half years, man. 21 years together.
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's a long time. I'm only 40. I just turned 40 this year. So that tells you more than half my life I've been with this woman.
Yeah. So by the time this guy was legally able to, an adult or whatever, he's been married that long or whatnot. So these are great rules and great things. Oh, he's got another one. He has another one. Let's look. He had to get a sip of his drink beforehand. That's how good this was going. That's how good this one will be. Let me get a sip of the drink first.
As an educator, I like threes. So, especially adult education. So the third rule is this: never let a grievance or something that made you feel away go unarticulated. Right. So there shouldn't be friends outside of the relationship, even parents, that are hearing the grievance or the way in which you felt before your partner. So that's one thing, is we speak truth to power, and it may not always be what we want to hear. But especially for men, because we're taught to suppress our emotions, and we expect that you should know how a thing made me feel. And women do the same thing too. They go, well, you should know how that made me feel when you didn't get me flowers on my birthday. You should know how it made me feel when you didn't open my door. You should know how it made me feel when you didn't do it. I hate to say it, but oftentimes we have no effing idea. We're just doing our thing, and vice versa. It happens to me too. Oh, you didn't get me a card for my birthday? You didn't buy me a card, babe? Like, come on. You bought me a cake and didn't get the candles? Like, you know how much I love candles. Like, little things. These are micro grievances that stack up and lead to distrust or mistrust between two people. So rule number 3, always air out or articulate. Yes, if you drink, sir. Always air out and articulate how you feel. And it could be over. Listen, let me tell you what happened today and how it made me feel. As a man, get comfortable, because you're human. You're supposed to feel, and it is okay.
I want to let me add to that really quick about expressing how you feel. If you take a moment and don't express the last feeling, that's what we generally do. We will express the latest feeling. If we could just go down a couple of layers and really be able to express how it made you feel, the reality of it, it'll make a huge difference in your communication, a huge difference in your relatedness and in the relationship. And so what I mean by that is, don't say, oh, you made me mad, you pissed me off. No, consider that that's not how the person made you feel. Consider that the person may have hurt your feelings. If you can get down to that level where you can say that actually hurt my feelings, then you will notice you have a totally different conversation. You will not have a conversation about being mad, being pissed, being upset. You'll actually have a conversation about, your feelings were actually hurt. And that will make a tremendous, tremendous difference in the conversation itself. So I just wanted to add that.
Man, that's talking about feelings? Are you serious? Is this guy serious? When? You talking about your feelings hurt? Fire? Your feelings hurt? That's hard, man. So that takes some growth, I can say, because as men, we're just not raised to talk about feelings, man. I mean, you heard that list that I read about toxic masculinity. It sounds like the way most of us were raised. So I mean, talking about your feelings as a guy,
yeah,
man, that's a hard one, Earth. I don't know, man. We may have to have a whole show just on that. Hey guys, here's how you talk about your feelings.
I don't want to bust too many guys' bubbles, but if you're watching this and you're a male and you got like a favorite sports team, could be college, could be NFL. I want you to look yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, I have no feelings with regards to how my favorite team shows up and plays or doesn't play. I've got nothing going on because I'm a man, Gina. I don't feel anything.
Right.
Hey, look. When my team didn't make the spread, more like it.
Right. But think about it like this. If you hear, like, if your woman says to you, oh, you pissed me off, I'm angry, you're just gonna sit there and just kind of like, okay, let's get through this. You're angry, just get it out. Whatever we say. But if your woman says to you, you know what, how I really feel is disappointed, that stings a whole lot more than somebody yelling at you and fussing and doing all those things. So if you can express what's really there, it's disappointment. It's hurt feelings. It's sadness, whatever that is, like what's up underneath the anger. You can have a totally different conversation, because men, as men, most of us, I can't speak for all, we don't want to disappoint our woman. That's the last thing we want to do, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
When a woman says, actually what's there for me is disappointment, he's like, shh. All right, baby, let's talk about this thing.
What do I need to do to fix it? Right.
You would rather piss her off than disappoint her. It may sound crazy to some people, but that's the reality of it. But the disappointment stings a lot more than there's somebody being pissed and arguing. So
there's before you go there, when there's the request right there, do a show about men talking about the feelings. I don't know, Art Kathy, I don't know if I want to be part of that one. I might not want to be part of that, so I don't know about that. But what were we gonna say, Wayne? What were you gonna say?
Well, I'm gonna speak to the feelings thing. In man speak, feelings is cut like this. It's disrespect or respect. You got men expect respect, and if you disrespect them, it's a bad thing. And that's really what I wanted to extract from you guys. And you guys went down the rabbit hole. And in essence, what you guys are talking about is communication. What is a woman's natural temperament what is a woman's natural disposition? To have longevity, everybody needs to communicate in a proper and respectful manner. Everybody needs to have a peaceful temperament, a kind disposition. That's the only way that you're going to have longevity, is to have respect and honor. That's the only way you're going to have peace.
Man, woo, gave me goosebumps, Win. You don't do that too often. You don't do that too often. But you did just then. Respect versus disrespect, honor. Bro, there is literally like no conversation that cannot be had in the context of respect. Literally, right. In any domain, work, business, kids, relationship, parent, like socially, as long if the context is from love and respect. I'm not saying what I'm about to say out of disrespect, but yet honor and authenticity. I owe you the truth. I owe me the truth. And my tonality is correct. And my objective and agenda is reconciliation and progress. I'd have had some tough conversations with my wife about things that I have, that I have done in the past. You see what I'm saying? And there's no reconciliation without respect, bro. Well said, Win.
Yeah, I like it. Fellas, we have 5 minutes left, or really, about 3.5. Win.
Yeah.
This is your show, baby. This is your show, Win.
Yeah, I mean, we can disagree about 1,000 things, but at the end of the day, if I'm in corporate America, that table requires me to have respect for everybody at that table. And we need to bring that same sentiment, that same disposition, that same respect to our own houses, our own homes, our own relationships. It's bananas. It's crazy that we go out to work and we respect our bosses and we respect our colleagues, and then we come home and disrespect our spouses, disrespect the people that we say we love. And we got to stop it, because it's destroying our community, it's destroying our family structure. It's bananas. It's crazy. It's insane. So we got 2 minutes, and I'll let you guys have it.
Yeah, let me chime in real quick. You said something that's key. How we will respect our boss, but we won't respect our home. And I think the fundamental difference is the reason that your boss may garner more respect is because you have something at stake that means something. You may have your livelihood at stake. And so maybe in your home, you may not view yourself as having much at stake, because we may view each other as plug and play. Or if I don't get this one, if this one messes up, I'll just go get another one. And so, we may make ourselves easily replaceable. And so we don't have anything at stake. But, when you have something at stake, you have more respect for that thing. You have more honor for whatever whatever it is. But if we don't have anything at stake, then it's easy to go home, go to your loved ones and just be, totally disrespectful, be uncaring, unconcerned, because you're like, whatever, this 7 billion people on the planet. So, there's another you. And the reality is there's not another that person at all. That's the reality. It's only that person, period. So I just wanted to add that. I think, we have to consider, and it's something for everybody to think about. What do you have at stake in your relationship? What's at stake?
Our families are at stake. Our communities are at stake. Our kids are at stake. And if you don't believe it, if you don't respect yourself and think that you're at stake, you got something bad coming. And the reason why I wanted to really get to this place is because my mother, she passed away alone. she was divorced in the 70s and never changed her disposition to be able to attach to a man because that man felt that how she was unacceptable. And that's what we're experiencing in mass in our communities. And we have to change it. We have to make an adjustment to our dispositions, our temperament, how we respect and communicate with one another. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah. Fire.
No, I'm gonna take us out because I got the next week.
I just want to say, man, like these. So everybody watching or listening right now, like these guys are notorious for making like the last 10 minutes of the show just the hotness, right? Where it just makes it hard to end the show. I mean, just notorious. Like we have this problem where we take, like 55 minutes to get warmed up, and then the last 5 minutes, it's like, man, it's fourth quarter. We got 24 seconds on the clock. I do agree with what you guys are saying, and I think that is a whole nother show within itself. There's probably about 3 or 4 shows that we really unraveled in that last 5 minutes right there. But as Wind and Earth kind of summed up, I mean, it just really comes down to respect. And the way that Fire kind of, said it, that you can bring any conversation to the table with respect. So I think that it really starts with that, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, whatever you're looking for, in whatever context, whether it's work, family, relationship, or whatnot. I think it starts with respect. Fire, you gonna take us out?
Take us out real quick. 3 points. 1, everybody's a leader. Well, whether you subscribe to the man or male being the head of the relationship or household or not, everybody's a leader in energy. So the one sort of nugget is you be the sage. You know, people light sage and they go through the whole crib and they go to all the rooms, and you are the sage. I'm gonna look you in the eye. You are the sage. So if you are male, female, single, married, betrothed, dating, cohabitating, shacking up, playing house, it doesn't matter. You are the sage. Male or female, it doesn't matter. You are responsible for the energy in that household. And if it's flawed, if it's off, and you recognize it as flawed and off, then the one who recognizes it first is responsible for reconciling it. It's not a gender assertion. It's not something that is ascribed to one particular gender or the other. He or she who has the most consciousness is responsible for being the sage. All right. Okay. Number 2, we talk about communication. The reason why the communication between males and females is so off is because men and women is so off is because there are so many I talked about micro grievances. There are micro gaps in communication that occur every day where somebody said something, the other person hears something else. And then the other person says something else, the other person hears something else. And it goes on and on and on, this loop of miscommunication. So a tip, whenever your partner or someone you're dating says something, simply restate what you heard them say in your own words. And you can start by this. They say what they say, and you say, what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z. That gives them the space to confirm that you heard them in context, or restate or reframe what they said in a way that you can get it. Don't allow micro gaps in communication to occur, because that turns into this big, I don't think she's hearing me, bro. I don't think he's hearing me, sis. Like, he's not getting it. That's what happens. Last thing. Next week, I got to give a shout out to Kenyatta Collins Robinson. Thank you very much. I was on the hook to lead our next show. Our next show is going to be How Can Men Talk About Their Feelings? Ha ha! You just gave it to me. So I'm glad I didn't come to the table with something, because I was struggling like, oh, dear God, I'm up next. I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
Kenyatta, I do not want to say thank you. He said thank you. I do not. I speak for the other elements, just so you know. I'm reading their minds right now.
Yada. Appreciate it.
So everybody follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. We're everywhere, as well as YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. In probably the next week or so, we're going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so you can get this video, audio, however you want it. We thank everybody for your support, and the elements will be back next week with the same fire, earth, wind, water. We're gonna bring it.
Peace.
Deuces.